All right, guys, we're here with Cam Strong, Montana 95 birth year. Played 2 years at 18s with Coach Sherman when he was the 18s coach, 2 years at Topeka, and just finished his senior year at Dartmouth College. Captain at Topeka, and assistant captain for the Rampage. So Cam, what have you been up to? Obviously, strange end to your season. Online classes. We talked on Friday a little bit. Online classes. How's that going? All that stuff. Tell us what you've been up to. How you've been passing the time. How you've been staying in shape. Obviously, it's been a kind of a long layoff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good to see you guys. For the last 3 weeks here, the only person I've seen in person has been my dad. Everyone else, all my friends, all my old coaches, just been over Zoom. So it's definitely a weird time. But as I just mentioned, I'm with my dad in Phoenix, Arizona. He has a town here, and he's down here most of the year. So as soon as I found out that I wouldn't be able to be on campus in the spring for my classes, I drove down here to be with my dad. And I figured if I couldn't study at Dartmouth, this would be the next best place because it's obviously really nice down here, the weather. It kind of feels like I'm always on vacation, but it is starting to feel a little lonely. Not a ton to do, obviously, just stuck inside. But the school's going pretty well online. You can never have imagined this. Dartmouth has never offered online courses at any point in its history, so this was very new for the school. Kind of had to scramble to get everything going. But it is going pretty well. I'm just spread out on the dining room table right in this spot every day. 10, 12 hours a day. So, but luckily I have a comfy chair to sit in.
There you go.
And as far as staying in shape, just been working out outside. I don't have much to work with here. I did find a 40-pound bag of salt in the garage. I've been using that, for squats and such. There's some paint cans. You really have to get creative.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And then obviously I have my sticks and pucks, so I can do a ton of stick handling. And it's nice to be able to go outside and do my workouts. It's better than being stuck in the garage or.
For sure. What was the temperature today?
80 degrees. I just.
We got snow and it was like 18 degrees here in Monument.
Snow the last 2 days.
Yeah,
snow on Thursday probably too. So, yeah, you're lucky with the weather. Obviously nice to be outside. Probably not too many of our guys outside today. Just as the weather's not, lets us do that. But that's great to hear that staying busy with all that stuff. And that is kind of one of those things where it's very unique. I didn't realize that was the first time that Dartmouth offered any online classes of any type. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It's obviously a great school. Talk us a little bit through, that whole process of, what was your whole recruiting process like in terms of, was it just as soon as you had an offer from Dartmouth, was it just automatic, or was there like a lot of other schools that were really had a lot of consideration for that? Because since we're on the academic side of it, obviously it's a very strong academic school.
Yeah. One thing I would say is my recruiting process started far before I even got recruited, if that makes any sense. I tried to be really proactive in researching teams way ahead of time. Started doing that a little bit when I was on the Rampage, and then a lot when I was in junior hockey, because obviously the next step after junior hockey would be college. And I wanted to be ready for whenever I did start talking to teams, instead of kind of playing catch up. So I was really well prepared. I literally researched all 60 teams, and kind of had my list, a top 10 or so. So as soon as I started getting recruited it was all really in my second year of juniors. Once a team contacted me, I knew right away a lot about them. I knew the coach, knew where they were, the conference, their past success, the success that their players have had that have moved on. So that was a big thing. And then Dartmouth was actually on the top of my list, or toward the top of my list. So it's really cool that I started getting recruited by them. And it was pretty late in my second year of juniors. I was starting to, I wouldn't say I was panicking, but, you start to wonder, it was coming down to it, like the last 20, 30 games or so. But as soon as I started getting recruited by a couple teams, it seemed like a lot more started to come, and things happened pretty quick. And I was thrilled about Dartmouth, and I told them that I wanted to come visit. And I went out and visited in late December. It was like right after Christmas, and my dad went out there with me. And after the visit, I knew that's where I wanted to play, and I committed shortly after that. And yeah, there were a couple of other teams that, a couple of schools that were interested that, I did my research on. I went on one other visit, but really, Dartmouth was the number one, the highest on my list that I had, been talking to. So it was a really easy decision, really, real exciting for me, and turned out to be a really good one.
It's awesome. What, if you could take us back, let's go back to Rampage days. Where were you at before it? What brought you to the Rampage? Maybe some of the things that stood out to you that made you want to play here, and then kind of talk about a little bit of your junior career as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in Montana, just playing. All we had was A hockey in Montana. We didn't have double A or triple A. It was just A and B is all I would play. So at about probably 12, 13 years old, I realized I might need to, I'd have to move away if I wanted to, play at a higher level and keep playing and make a career out of this. So when I was 14 is when I first moved away from home, and I went to Arizona, came down here. I knew a coach on it was a U14 AAA team. So I made the jump from A to AAA my second year of Bantam, now they call it 14, and made that jump down here, big adjustment. Was no longer the best player, just it was a big difference. And then I was fortunate that we got a AAA team in my hometown the year after I left, so I actually came back and played 2 years of 16 AAA in Billings. We were the only AAA team in the state then. Played in I don't even know if it's a league anymore. It was the NJPHL my first year. Second year got into the NAPHL, so a little bit better. Good competition. Had to travel, obviously, like every weekend. There was no in-state games. It was just flying to Denver, Chicago, Boston, Salt Lake. Real cool experience. So then after 16s, I knew that it was going to be time to move away again to find an 18s team. And that was a very pivotal decision. It was a very important one. And my dad and I, discussed it a lot about where to go. And if I wouldn't have chose the Rampage, I could tell you right now, I probably would have not gone D1. I give them a ton of credit for getting me to D1. The other programs I was considering, I won't name them, but some of them programming more. And so to choose the Rampage was solid. That started, I guess, was 2002 at least with the 18s, right, Coach Ship?
Yeah.
02.
Yeah, 02, only one team.
Yeah, and now obviously a ton of teams because it's just a great organization. So, just the decision to come to the Rampage was mostly because, I came down to try out and I knew it was going to be tough. And that's what I liked about it. It's going to be hard to play there. It's going to be a challenge. And that's how you get better, right? And that's what I needed to do. It was an important time in my career. 16, 17, 18 years old, those are the big years of development. I was right in the middle of it. So I knew I needed to find a place where I was going to get better. And obviously a ton of good coaches in the Rampage. I got to play for Coach Sherman. He was the head coach on the 18s for both my years there. Had great coaches, got to work with Coach Pat at practices when he was coaching the 16s, really come out with us. Coach John in the weight room, Coach Bo Smith in the weight room. So it's just a great place to develop. And the biggest thing was just the challenge. Easy to play there. And I think why it was important for my career was it added the sandpaper to my game, which I really needed. And by that, I mean, playing with grit, playing tough, being hard to play against. Those are the things you really need to continue to move up in levels in hockey. It's not all about skill. And so I really needed to add that layer to my game. And it actually transformed me into a very gritty player, a grinder. That's my role now. So I give Rampage all the credit and making me that type of player, because that's the kind of player I needed to be to move on to Tier 2 junior and then on to D1 college hockey. So it was also a ton of fun because we got to go to districts both years, and we were fortunate enough to win it my second year and go to nationals, and that was our ultimate goal all along. And it was a really special year. That year we went to nationals because we had a great group of guys, and we knew we were probably destined to go to nationals, and so there was a lot of pressure on us. The expectation was that we were the team to beat in the district, and to win states that year and then win districts and go to nationals. It was very fulfilling. Just a great experience. And Coach Sherman called us the team of destiny all year long. So I'll always remember that team.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was it. Just to touch on that is the state playoff game to win, to clinch the state. There's an overtime goal.
Yeah.
And then there's Ryan Bockert. And then at district, same thing. They went was it double overtime against Dallas? And Jacob Gerson got that goal in that game. And I remember being at that game. It was at Sports Stable, the state game, obviously. And then I remember I had to watch this live stream of the overtime game against Dallas. And right before we scored, I believe, there was like a crazy turnover right in front of the net, like right in our own slot. And I was, obviously, when I watch you guys play, I honestly get more nervous. And I tell all our guys now, I get more nervous than they probably are because they're in the game. They can actually affect it. But yeah, two crazy endings to get those two banners there. Obviously, great memories from that. So a lot of your old teammates probably comment to me about you being a good teammate, and like, can you just comment on like what that means to you in terms of like, I mean, it's not just your actions, obviously the things you say. You're a very encouraging guy. And I know that for me personally, I had Cam in the weight room working for me in his second year 18s. He worked kind of like an assistant with the younger groups and stuff too, but always giving back. So just, I mean, tell us what is important to you personally, and then obviously tell us how that served you in the other parts of your life.
Well, I think, helping out your teammates, helping out others is super important. And what goes around comes around, right? So, and that's a big thing that I kind of learned with the Rampage too, was using your teammates, helping out your teammates, and they will in return, and kind of using each other to, to win hockey games, to have success, and then to move on to the next level. So obviously every day was about coming to the rink, trying to get better every day, but also to help your teammates get better. And everyone around you, uplift them, and it works the other way. And then you get much more development out of that. You find more success. And obviously we were able to have success from that. But that's just kind of always been the way for me, is helping others and supporting guys. And I think it all comes down really to just loving the game, right? It's care factor. The more you love it, the more you care, the more you want to help others. And it's just been a ton of fun at every level I've played at. It's been special.
Could you? No, that's awesome. But can you break down a little bit? I know, I had to grind it in the North American League as well, and I think a lot of our guys really start to appreciate Rampage stuff or the things that we do at Rampage once they get into a junior team or a junior schedule, and they go, oh man, like, I'm so glad we did that when I was 18s, or you see other guys struggling. Or can you explain some of the differences? And obviously a lot of busing, crappy subs on the bus, all that. So can you kind of explain the difference between AAA and junior?
Yeah. One thing about junior hockey, usually just 2 games a weekend, and that's a lot different from like the 4 games you'd play on a normal AAA weekend. So I remember when I was making the transition from AAA to juniors, I was like, oh, this should be easy, just playing, a Friday and Saturday nights, not ever having to play 2 games in one day or 4 games in 3 days. So I thought it was going to be easy, but really it's not. It's actually harder just because it's that much higher of a level. It's that much more physical. That's that much more demanding. Winning means a ton. And so it was actually very difficult. And then, you mix in all the travel. The travel is not as nice as AAA. you're usually on buses no matter what league you're in. And so that makes it tough too. But and then also you normally, a lot of players, when they transition from AAA to juniors, they're usually moving away for the first time. That wasn't the case for me because I was already living away from home. But for a lot of players, they just play locally until they're ready to go to juniors. So that could always be tough. I know a lot of my teammates in juniors, my first year, were struggling with the homesickness, and yeah, and it's very tough. Once you get past that, though, it's a real big relief, and you can move on and actually really improve. But yeah, I think the Rampage really prepared me well for juniors. Just like I said, I was able to add that grit to my game that I needed because I had been trying out for junior teams, starting when I was like 16. I'd go to camps just to see where I was at, and I was nowhere near ready. I just wasn't tough enough. I wasn't strong enough. And I still wasn't the strongest player once I was 18, but I played stronger than I was. I played tough. I went to the hard areas, played really tough, and wasn't worried about, if I had to fight someone, I had to fight someone. Wouldn't back down from anything, stand my ground. So I think that really helped me not only get onto a junior team, but stay onto a team. Because a story I'll tell about my my first experience in juniors, at training camp, they bring in a bunch of players, 30 players at least, and they're all fighting for a spot on the roster. Usually it's 23, 24 guys they end up taking. So it's a battle. I mean, you're trying to win your spot in the lineup and not get cut. So I remember looking at all the players on the team, and I said, boy, I don't think I'm as skilled as these guys. I'm gonna have to find a way to make this team another way. So I just had to work the hardest, right? So just make sure I was the hardest worker, doing the little things right, being a coachable player, going to the hard areas, and I was able to have some success from that. Ended up scoring more goals than a lot of the skilled guys, and ended up sticking around longer, and then finally just establishing myself on the team, finding my role, chipping in quite a bit, and I was able to stay and have 2 solid years of junior hockey, and it was an unreal experience. So I'm really glad that I was able to stay in one spot because I know it can be tough. It's a business, and players can get traded, cut, sent up, set down. But luckily that wasn't the case for me. And I think it's just really about working hard, establishing good relationships with your coaches and your teammates, being a coachable player, and you'll stick around and hopefully have some success and be able to move on beyond juniors even. So.
Yeah, there's definitely no coach out there that's like, oh, this guy works way too hard and he's such a good teammate, I can't keep him, right? So like,
Yeah.
you never hear that. It's some of the easiest things to do that people overlook, but it all comes down to that foundation of effort and attitude and being a good teammate and showing up every day and just working hard. So, and that's one of the things that comes up when I think back to meeting you and training with you a little bit and being around the rink. You were a guy that's heavy process oriented, and you're very good with a routine. Can you explain to the guys and girls, all our players, can you kind of explain what your daily habits look like, what your routines look like, especially through college and even now? What are some of your routines and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Process is very important to me, and I think that's another thing that I really learned with the Rampage. I was always a hockey junkie, always a hockey nut. It was all I really talked about or thought about growing up. But I think my mindset was different when I was younger. It was, I already kind of told you how I was just playing hockey, and for me, it was just go out and score as many goals as I can. Have fun and try to win. But when I got with the Rampage, I soon learned that it's more about focusing on getting better and focusing on the process and doing the little things right, and not focusing on scoring the goals and the outcomes and stuff. You can't get ahead of yourself. So, learning to trust the process and stick to the process, and the results will take care of itself. That was a big thing for me. And yeah, it's just about having discipline. And if you truly want to, play pro hockey or play college hockey or just make a career out of hockey, you really have to dedicate yourself to it. You can't just say that you want to and not back that up, right? I've heard a lot of young players say, oh, I want to play pro hockey or I want to play college. but they don't show it. You know, you can't just talk it, you got to walk it. And so it was just, yeah, it's everything from the moment you wake up, before you even go to sleep. Actually, it's, you know, reflecting on each day and what you want to do to get better the next day, and then getting a good night's rest. And then when you wake up, it's just attack the day, and no days off, right? Even if you're away from the rink or not working out, you still don't take the day off in terms of your nutrition, your hydration. So you both just took a drink of water. Love that.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, all those things are super important, and staying in the loop, you know, like being aware of kind of what's going on in the hockey world. That's important too. You know, if you don't know anything about teams at the next level or players at the next level, you know, you're not doing your research. It won't help much. So that's what my life is like, is waking up every day and, you know, just crushing meals, crushing food, crushing studies, crushing my rest. You know, I always have tabs on my phone or on my computer that are hockey tabs, you know, players, teams, looking at things, watching highlights. It's just my life, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
No, that's especially how cerebral you are. I mean, that's a huge piece. And talking about researching the teams and doing all that, and staying out of your own head. I know you mentioned that earlier about like what other guys are doing around you, and your commitment came a little later. Like I love, and Giles talked about it too. It's like, I mean, you're just so caught up in what other people are doing, but really the hardest thing is just worrying about what you're doing every single day and making sure you're doing the right stuff. So no, that's the number one thing I think about. I think when I think back to you was, and still is, it's just discipline. And I mean, you and fellow Roadrunner Kevin Patterson, same thing, right? Like pure discipline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean, you got a question?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna comment on how Cam started making hockey a priority. I remember when, and this was when Cam was like 17 or 18 years old. He talked about guys' Instagrams, and he said it was like 75% of your Instagram better be hockey, or else you're not really a true hockey player. And, you know, you don't truly love hockey or truly prioritize it, which is kind of like, you know, it's like there's no real rule to that, but it's kind of like a good guidelines, you know, like, hey, if your pictures are you just at the beach all the time, like, all right, like, are you really, like, where's your focus? You know, how much you love, how much love and passion do you have for the game? And is it just kind of, oh, you know, I like to go out there and dangle a few people and score a few goals and stuff like that. But, you know, and as you get more serious, it's like, all right, like hockey, you know, hockey becomes the priority, right? And then kind of, can you touch on how special it is when you matched up against a former Rampage teammate or a teammate you played with, like in juniors or stuff like that? Because obviously you had a lot of different matchups with a lot of former teammates.
Yeah, it's super cool. That's one of the coolest things is obviously the relationships you build on each team, they're special. And then seeing where those players go is always fun to kind of track them and watch them. And then as soon as you meet up against them for the road, it's pretty cool. Yeah, in juniors when I was playing in the NA, I played against Sean Giles for 2 straight years. I mean, he was on the Lone Star Brahmas. I was on the Roadrunners in Topeka. They're now the Topeka Pilots. And in fact, I think they're actually moving to the Kansas City area. So they'll probably change their name again. But either way, we both played each other 6-8 times a year and battled it out. And it was just so fun. You know, talk to each other at face-offs and, you know, go into the corner with each other. And you play harder against those guys, right? You want to get the best of them. So it's awesome. And yeah, like I said, just following the teammates that you had, like when I was in Topeka, my first year especially, we had some talented guys. I mean, we had talented guys both years, but my first year in Topeka, one of our goalies committed to UND and then got drafted by the Flyers that summer. So that was cool to, like, you know, see him get drafted and move on to North Dakota. And then one of our defensemen is now in the AHL, has played a few games for the LA Kings in the NHL, but he played at Minnesota State, Mankato, and then is in the A now. So it's cool to, like, follow those guys and chat with them once in a while. And then, yeah, getting on to college hockey, you know, you take different paths there, but you'll meet up with guys again that you hadn't seen in a while. You know, so I played against a lot of my teammates that I had in juniors, and now And I've even played against some Rampage guys. Played in the same conference as Bo Hansen. You had him on last week. We battled it out. In fact, we played in the playoffs 2 years ago, and last year we played each other in the playoffs, and we had a 3-game series both times. So those were intense. Those were fun for me, at least. Yeah, it's really neat. And now, after playing college and playing with some really good players, it'll be cool to see what they do, whether it's in hockey or just life, right? Because I mean, now we're all getting college degrees and going off and doing different things. One of my teammates this year signed in the NHL with Pittsburgh. A couple guys will probably end up in the AHL, and then the other guys are going on and getting really good jobs, living in cool places. So it's really cool to keep in touch with those guys and see what they end up doing. Looks like we have some questions in the chat.
Stuff popping up here. We're still learning Zoom. We're working on it, right? So this is for Cam. I'm from Montana too. So I went from playing B hockey all my life to AA and AAA in 2 years. How well did you adjust?
Oh, that's awesome. It was a tough adjustment. I would say when I made the jump from A to AAA, it was a lot bigger than I thought. I came down here to Arizona, and I made the team. I knew I could play here, but it was a lot faster, and I was always used to being the fastest guy out there and scoring goals, getting breakaways every game, and it wasn't that way, right? I wasn't getting breakaways every game, and you don't always get scoring attempts, so you got to find other ways to contribute. And so that's why it's good to push yourself and always try to play at the highest level that you can, and not just be satisfied with the level you're at and if you're dominating or not. So it was a big adjustment. I think the biggest adjustment was when I kind of got to the Rampage. I mean, I was still playing AAA, but it was 18s instead of 16s, and where I came from. But Rampage, it's the Tier 1 Elite League, so it's it's the highest level, best league in my opinion in the country. So really good competition, and I don't know if I didn't have a ton of goals or a ton of points my first year. Played third, fourth line on the Rampage there, but just learned, adapted my game. Tried to play tougher, tried to get stronger, continue to work my skating, and find ways to score. Get to those hard areas, get to the paint. That's really where I started to find my success, was when I just went to the net hard and got my chances around the net. And it really picked up. My scoring really picked up in my second year, and it was a great year for me. And then it continued on into juniors. I continued those scoring ways just by continuing to play that way. So the adjustment was difficult, but I was willing to adapt, and it was worth it because it got me to where I am today. So good question.
Do you want to take the other question that I have, or do you want to keep going with just asking him questions?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Mikey Harold from Texas. You played in the 18s team this year. He wants to know about kind of your nutrition, maybe like some of the things that you really try to incorporate into your daily diet, or what are you things you try and focus on? Maybe give us a little insight on like game days versus like training days versus like kind of like off days.
Yeah. I like to make sure I eat lean, lots of protein, but I do crush a lot of carbs too. And I'm not.
Mikey needs to like bulk up. So
yeah, and I'm not afraid of fats. I mean, you don't want to be eating junk food all day every day, and you don't need to get your fats from junk food. You can get it from good food, avocados, and oils and such, but and nuts and peanuts. But I'll once in a while I'll have a treat that has high carbs, high fats. But I try to keep it lean, keep it clean, and that's what I have always done when I'm at home making meals, or when I'm at the dining hall. Just try to find chicken, pasta, rice, quinoa is a good one, and then for breakfast I usually crush a few eggs, some bread, and usually some fruit. Fruits and veggies are huge too. So that's it for me. I'd say on a game day, breakfast it's never usually any different than I would on a regular day. Eggs, toast, some fruit. Definitely try to get a banana in for the potassium earlier on in the day. Hydration is key for me. I'd say I focus just as much on hydration as I do the food that I'm eating any day of the week, especially on a game day. You want to be ahead of it in terms of hydration. You never want to get behind and just start drinking a ton right around game time or during the game, or right after. You want to be starting the morning, the night before and then the morning of a game, drinking those fluids. And then by the time the game comes around, before the game, you're not chugging water. You're just, sipping on something. You don't feel waterlogged or anything when you're playing. Before the game, I usually eat just pasta with marinara, chicken breast, usually a couple rolls, like some type of bread. And then if there's a salad or a veggie, I'll eat that too. I usually eat a pretty big lunch, but in juniors and in college, you eat like 5 hours before the game. Depends on the team you're on, but we'd eat 5 hours before. So it's a long time before. So I usually fill myself up pretty good. Not to where I'm uncomfortable, but, get a big meal and big plate of food. And that's what you're playing on for the game. So, and then throughout the game, I just hydrate. And then right after the game, I usually get a protein shake, more water or body armor, sports drink, something like that. So that's usually the way I do things. And I do supplement. I have a whey protein. With those, you just gotta make sure it's safe for sport and certified, no matter what level you're at. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice. So some we're also getting into a little more with the Rampage, especially the younger teams will start getting it like 14, 15, 16. What's video play a role at in Dartmouth, and what do you guys do weekly with video, or are you a guy that's going back and watching stuff outside of what the coaches are giving you? Give me a little insight on that.
Yeah, awesome question. As I'm actually curious what it's like at the younger age groups. But in college, at least, it's a lot of video. I would say 2, 3, probably 3 days a week. We're watching some sort of video. And I would say earlier on in the week. So if we just finished a weekend of games, well, for one, we get all the video sent to us. So every game film is sent to us within an hour after the game. And one thing we were able to do is get individual shifts sent to us, so each player can watch their shifts. It's nice to be able to see that, because a lot of times that's what you want to see is how you're doing. If you want to see the goals, those will be on the highlights anywhere in college hockey. But you really want to see what you're doing from shift to shift, whether it's a good one or a bad one. But usually as a team on Mondays, we watch a little bit of the last weekend's games, the things we did well, the things we struggle on. And then usually like Tuesday, Wednesday, of any given week, we're watching systems. So power play PK is meeting to watch video on the past weekend and scouting the opponents for the upcoming weekend. And then usually Thursday, the day before a game, it's scout video on the other team. Usually those can go anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes long, depending on how much they need to show us for us to be ready. And then we're prepared to go. And like I said, all the players have access to the video. So away from the rink, you're able to watch it anytime. Usually the night before, I'm back on my phone at night watching a little bit of my shifts and mostly the team that I'm preparing for, to know what I can do against their defense or power play, because I was a penalty killer. So I'd always be watching the other team's power play just to be prepared. And that's about it. But yeah, it's nice to have the video, at hand to be able to watch your shifts, to watch games, watch other teams. And in juniors, it was kind of the same. We didn't get it sent to us, but we watched it as a team most of the days of the week before or after practice. Yeah. What is it like?
No, good.
I'm curious what it's like now if you guys do any video at the U18 level. I can't remember really doing much. It's harder to get our games recorded and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, we kind of partnered up with Huddle this year, so that's the nice part is they really give us at least a platform, so we can upload, and immediately guys can they don't quite have clipping shifts yet, but guys can go in with the raw feed and clip their own, right? So if somebody wants to sit down with a coach, they can clip their own, get their 15-20 minute clip, and then go from there. And then but really for all the stuff they do, they break it down. It's really easy for coaches. It's just a matter of finding a parent or somebody who wants to record. It uploads right away, and within a couple hours you have that full breakdown sent, and it's all cloud-based, so kids can get it. So it's definitely a big step for our program, and really implementing now. Last year was a little bit of a trial run. This year will be a little more implementing and getting it into 14, 15, 16, and 18, and then the 2 Monument Hockey Academy teams will have as well. So it's going to be interesting for sure. And I know everybody with how Instagram focused and computer focused and stuff, guys want to see themselves, and I think that's a good way to teach and learn. So it's good that everybody on here hears that how much you're doing at a high level. Hopefully we can bring it down into the amateur levels as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important. It's a really good way to learn. There's some games where you may score a goal or two and you're feeling good. You think you had a good game, but if you really watch your shifts, maybe you didn't have such a good game. It wasn't a complete game. Yeah, you scored, but and then there are games where you don't get on the score sheet, but you did a lot of really good things, and those are the things you want to see and take note of, and try to bring those out every game, and then have more complete games. At least that's how I saw it. I'd watch the game and really watch every shift. And if I saw a tough shift, I want to figure out why that was the case. And then when you come across a good shift, same kind of thing. What did I do there? And so I think it's really valuable. The video nowadays is huge for sure.
It even goes into all the time that you spend, right? It shows some of these guys now, like, okay, if you're in juniors and you're trying to research colleges and you're looking up the teams, the coaches, you're emailing and sending out recruiting stuff, like, you're doing all that. You're also researching new shifts. You're watching film. You're doing all, like, it is so much of it's done off the rink.
Yeah.
I think you definitely exemplify that. Like, you bring all that together of how much you spend away from the rink to prepare for your on ice stuff. So I think that's really good for everybody here to hear how much goes into that piece. It's not just show up, play your one game and then you're done and you're out till next weekend, right? It's a constant process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you can treat it as like when you're playing youth hockey and you're in school, you're in high school or middle school, elementary school, treat it as another class, right? If you're doing homework every night and you're math, science, do a little homework in your hockey, whether it's watching clips of your own or of the NHL. I love watching highlights in the NHL. Who doesn't, right? So, and then also, like I said earlier, researching players and teams. That's your homework. And then, definitely in junior hockey where you don't have school typically, get a full-time job. Really do. You're at the rink 3-4 hours a day. You're lifting, but you can spend 3-4 hours a day more just watching video or at home, obviously working on your skills. You can practice away from the rink, make it a full-time job, and then do the same in college. That's what I was doing. It was still a full-time job, and I was taking full-time classes, so it's really demanding. But you kind of just treat it as another class, and you put a couple hours into it every day that you can.
That's a great way to put it.
Got another
John?
question from Texas. Just asking, it's the same guy. It's Mikey Harold again, just FYI, that everyone knows. He's just asking, what show are you watching? Any shows right now? You need some recommendations, or are you just watching highlights of yourself? He didn't put that part in. I put that part in there.
No, I'm not watching any shows right now. I haven't really been a big a TV show guy or a movie guy. I do like movies and TV shows, but I've never found that I have a ton of time for it. Especially since I've been in college, it's a pretty big grind. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of time that goes into that. And then when hockey's going on, it's there's even less time to do anything else. So I wouldn't say that I'm watching any shows. But anytime I am watching something, it's usually hockey. It's usually NHL. I try to make sure to watch when the season was going. I usually try to watch the highlights of every night, whether it's just a couple of goals or a whole game highlights. Try to catch a full game once in a while. The teams I like to watch are Arizona because they're actually my favorite team. My dad has season tickets to the Coyotes down here, so that's pretty cool to be able to watch the games that he's at live. And they're an exciting team to watch nowadays too. They got some good players now with Kessel, Hall, and Garland's really good. Keller's a good player. So I like to watch the Coyotes. Obviously, Penguins are fun to watch. The Blues, Avalanche. I love watching McKinnon. So I'd say, Yeah, it's probably my favorite thing to watch. If I had one highlight would be a Nathan McKinnon highlight.
There you go. Coach Sean, you got any more? Probably got time for one more.
No, I don't really have anything right now. Wait a second. He wants
Uh-oh.
no. Mikey wants him to say "Go Stars," but I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, we don't do that here.
He's not. Cam's not a Stars guy. I don't know what you want him to do here.
Yeah, Mikey, stop watching Netflix, read some books, and watch some hockey highlights. Take it from Cam Strong here.
Yeah, I would say, if we're finishing up, I would say my biggest would be kind of those things we talked about is like doing your hockey research. That was just so important for me. Like when I was like younger, when I was like 10, 12 years old, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I was just like always on the computer, like researching players. For me, it was just players back then because I would like to see, where they played to get to where they are. I typically U.S. born players because that's what I am. That's what it's a typical path for a U.S. born player. A lot of them play college hockey, which is sweet, and that's what I wanted to do. So where did they play before that? Okay, they played USHL or NAHL, or and then they grew up playing AAA or high school if they were from Minnesota and whatnot. You really got to see. You kind of can see what you need to do to get to where you want to go, and then researching the teams ahead of time before you go to the next level. I mentioned how crucial it was for me to research the Rampage when I was making the jump because, like I said, that was the most important decision. And the other teams that I was looking at would not have worked out. I can tell you that. So I liked everything about the Rampage, so I jumped on it. You don't want to just go to a team because they have a cool logo or a cool name. It's not like a team. It's looking at the coaches, the kind of success they've had, the success the team has had, how long they've been established. And also, I guess a big thing would be if you're looking at roster spots, you do want to see what your opportunity would be to play. And that was something I did when I was playing for the Rampage and researching junior teams was, how many players are aging out of a certain team. You kind of know where you want to end up, or you kind of know where you're more likely to end up as far as leagues go. So you look at those teams and look at the better ones and look at the coaches and see how many players they're moving on. Aging out. You want to look at players aging out, and you also look at players going on to college. You can usually find out if they're going in early, leaving a year or two early to go to college. So a team might lose 12 players, a team might lose 3 players. And obviously you might want to choose a team that has more spots opening up. And then, like I already said, how much research I did for D1. Nobody told me to do that. I just did it. I spent hours and hours looking at each team. I went through all 50 teams, made note of, where they are, geographically, it's not super important, but, you kind of want to see where that would be, the conference they're in, the success they've had, where the players go. And big thing with college is looking at the academics. You got to make sure you have the people you want to get, like the department, the program. For me, it was engineering. Most schools have that, but some don't. And, I kind of had to make note of that. If it was a school that would be awesome to play hockey at, I don't know if I couldn't study engineering, I don't know if I'd want to go there. So I kind of, did that kind of thing. I already mentioned how Dartmouth was at the top of my list. Ivy League, it's obviously a great school, well established. It's in a cool area in New Hampshire. They have engineering. That's what I'm finishing up right now is my degree. In a awesome competitive conference, probably the best conference in the NCAA in my opinion. We had the Cornell this year was the team in the country all year, battling against them. We actually beat them once. But they were number 2 at the time we beat them, but it was still pretty sweet to hand them their one of their only 2 losses they had all year. Quinnipiac's always tough too. Clarkson, Harvard, just a ton of fun teams. And so for me, it was just like they checked all the boxes. And there were a lot of teams that were like, oh, man, this would be cool either way. So kind of do your research and know what you want and know what the opportunity you would have. I came into Dartmouth with 11 freshmen, which is a lot. So I knew that I was going to have an opportunity to play my first year. And I did. So look at certain things and know what you're getting into. Don't just pick it because of the name or like I said, the logo. Those are bad reasons to pick a team. You want to know who the coaches are, the people that are part of it, and your opportunity that you're going to have. So that's my advice.
Yeah, for sure. Really, really appreciate you coming on, Cam, and obviously you're a hell of a role model for the discipline aspect, the cerebral aspect, the process aspect. I mean, you're great alumni to look up to. So I'm really glad you could come on and kind of tell all our members and all our family, Rampage family here, how you got it done. So really appreciate your time, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate the time, Cam.
Of course, it was fun, and I'll be around this summer. I like to come back every summer, so it'll be no different as long as things get going again. I'll be down there. I'll be around training because I love it, and there's no better place to be in the summer than with you guys in Monument. So I'll see you guys soon, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe I'm like hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, for sure. So if you see Cam around the rink, for all of you guys that are watching, please feel free to reach out and talk to him. I know he talks about how tough he was, and how gritty he is, but he's a really nice guy. So feel free to reach out, chat with him, ask him any questions you didn't get to ask here. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Cam, thank you again. John, we'll talk to you guys in a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. See you guys.
See everyone.